stage Melissa Ferrucci Schreiber, the founder of Create California, to speak with us today.
I just want to say I am old. I'm going to be 50 this year, so I'm old. But I did go to school, public school in California when we had all of this. And to Mr. Zimmer's point, it's a disgrace that anybody thinks that that is not as valuable as a bubble test. So I was thinking, I'm married to Bobby Kennedy, and President Kennedy's nephew is my husband. And I was thinking today when I left to come here, I was thinking, you know, there are some quotes, and I thought, oh, I'll read a quote, and I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. The thing that's really important about Bobby Kennedy and President Kennedy was their commitment to civil rights. And what we're talking about here is public education, and it's a civil right. And every kid in private school in California is getting arts ed. Every kid in private school all over this country, at Phillips Exeter, at Andover, at the finest schools in this country, they are teaching arts ed and a rich curriculum of arts ed. So if it's good enough for those kids, it's good enough for our kids. And Michelle Obama said that. She's the chairman of the President's Committee on Arts and Humanities, and I know she likes to say her kids go to Sidwell Friends, and they're getting a rich arts curriculum, and she often says, if it's good enough for our kids, it's good enough for all of our kids. And as you all know, Bobby Kennedy and President Kennedy died for what they believed in. And my husband said to me that he used to be terrified of his Uncle Bobby because they would play football, and Uncle Bobby would aim for the rose bushes, and he'd throw the football right into the rose bushes. And if you didn't dive in and catch that ball, he had no respect for you. And I was thinking of that today, and I was thinking all of you people in this room dive into the rose bushes every day and come out bloodied and, you know, to fight for our kids, for kids that deserve the same thing that wealthy, white kids all over this country are getting. And it's just, I'm so proud to be here in front of all of you people who work every day in LAUSD, which I believe has, if I'm right, 80% of the students live below the poverty line in LAUSD.
That's correct.
I mean, that is a horrific statistic. That tells me, if any of you have seen James Catterall's research, that it's even more imperative for the district to have arts education because, you know, they've shown a 100-point difference in SAT scores for low socioeconomic children who are exposure to arts education. So this is something that's a noble fight. I mean, I hate to say that we're here to save the arts. We should be here saving ourselves as a civilization if we lose this kind of opportunity for our kids. For organizing this year after year. She's a true champion. I want to thank the LAUSD Board of Education that is so, talk about champions, right? Okay, they unanimously approve theater, music, dance, and visual arts teachers for every school in LAUSD. Third grade literacy rates, early childhood education, the importance of elementary schools providing this. There are some districts, you know, high school kids are the only kids who get arts education anymore. The elementary school kids, some people think it's an internet myth, but I have worked enough in the state government to know that it's not really a myth, that third grade literacy rates are predictors of the building of prisons in many states, including Texas, and some people feel that that's happening in California. Since 1980, California has built 21 prisons and 1 university. So if you want to look where people are investing their money, and recently I was in Washington, D.C. talking to a very conservative member of the House, and he said to me, well, on my side of the aisle, we like to vote with our wallets, and we let the free market decide what's valuable. And I said, well, that's funny, because if you look at the private schools, people have voted with their wallets, and it's about 50 grand a year. So they think arts education is valuable, and I think you should too. There's some things we're doing at Create California. CREATE is an acronym which stands for Core Reforms Engaging Arts to Educate. It's a task force that was created by the State Superintendent of Schools, Tom Torlson, which I co-chair. We're working on getting the dance and theater credentials back to California. Can you believe we don't have Tanzania credentials? It's like, I'm embarrassed to say that's one of the things we're fighting for. We're partnering with the President's Committee on Arts and Humanities on their Turnaround Schools project. They have 8 schools nationwide. They have Booz Allen documenting their success. They very successfully turned 8 schools around, and we're going to do a partnership in California. There are some statistics that show that almost half of the dropouts in California are coming from less than 100 schools. So I would like to turn all 100 schools around and drop our dropout rate by half. California has the highest dropout rates in the nation, next to Mississippi and Texas. We also have the highest incarceration rates in the world here in California. We're working on the Creativity Index, report cards for districts on arts education. LAUSD would get an A+++. We're working on equity, access, a lot of poverty issues, as you can imagine. The California Distinguished Schools program, which has been improved and has a new arts component to it, and they just recently awarded the Distinguished Schools to a number of schools that are doing tremendous work in arts and arts integration. We're working on organizing teaching artists statewide to become partners with credentialed teachers to provide professional development so that we can work together with credentialed teachers, all credentials, for dance and feedback teachers too. And we're working to develop a large collective impact model statewide. And that would probably require a backbone organization, a small backbone organization, to take the politics out of it and to make it sustainable over the long term. I think that, sometimes people say to me, but arts isn't really big business. I say, really? Did you notice that Instagram sold for $1 billion to Facebook? It's an art business. If you noticed in the New York Times or the LA Times this week, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, the chairman of Interscope Records, gave $70 million to USC to build Steve Jobs, as they call it. Happily, they knew it shouldn't be in the Marshall School of Business, and it is housed in the School of Fine Arts at USC. So I'm trying to engage them to work on our statewide work because, like I said to them, no one will make it to USC if you don't have this kind of programming in the K-8, K-12 system. Also, there's some good news happening. I noticed that Lorene Jobs is, there was an article in the New York Times on Lorene Jobs, Steve Jobs' widow, who is investing in education, and a friend, and we're trying to engage her in our work to invest in some of our work. Sometimes people say, well, can we really afford it? There's just so little money to go around, and can we really afford it? And I just think we just can't afford not to. We're losing children. I think we have to really get back to the idea of what is teaching and what is learning. And we know that arts education is re-engaging students. It's a dropout prevention strategy. It increases literacy and numeracy scores. It is so good for our kids. I know myself, I moved out of Alhambra, where I went to elementary school, and we moved to Seal Beach when I was in 7th grade. I didn't know a soul. And my 7th grade theater teacher, Mr. Mitchell, said to me, you should do the school play. And I said, oh my God, no, I can't do that. And he said, you should do that. And it changed my life, and I made friends, and I felt special, and it was such a meaningful thing. And I just think, to this day, here I'm 50 years old, I'm still thinking about Mr. Mitchell in 7th grade, and what an impact he had on my life. I think it's the time to get on the right side of this issue. The new national art standards are being drafted. The No Child Left Behind, the SCA is being reauthorized, so there's movement at the national level, there's movement at the state level. The state superintendent of schools understands that arts matter. It's a core curriculum, it's a core subject matter, we need to enforce it. If people suddenly stop teaching math, there'd be people protesting in the streets, and we should behave just the same way. It's a core subject, our students deserve to have it, it's a civil right, and we should fight for it. And I just want to thank all of you very much for the tremendous, tremendous work you do every day. You're changing students' lives, you're saving students' lives, and it's an honor to be at the same event in the same room with all of you. You're heroes to me. God bless you.